So I'm reading this book, and by reading, I mean I'm on like page 28, but it has already inspired me, and I've had some thoughts and contemplations about it. So I wanted to come on here and share. The book is Women Who Run with the Wolves, and I can't really say much about it because I'm only on page 28, but I was reading it on the plane. And it really intrigued me and it has really inspired me already. I felt just this pull and I wanted to keep reading. Yes, I'm only on page 28, but I will keep reading. Um, and it is from the gist of what I've been reading and kind of what I know, it is about women coming back home to themselves, reconnecting with their intuition and reconnecting with that wild woman archetype. The beginning so far has been really good, and like I said, it's already inspired me to come on here and share some of my contemplations. So, a big part about what the author is saying in the beginning is the importance of storytelling. And as I was reading that part of it, I had this thought that YouTube is a modern form of ancient storytelling. And before I go more in on that, I want to share what the author wrote about stories in general. Not in general, it is very specific actually, and it's actually very beautiful. Stories are medicine. I have been taken with stories since I heard my first. They have such power. They do not require that we do, be, act anything. We need only listen. The remedies of repair or reclamation of any lost psychic drive are contained in stories. Stories engender the excitement, sadness, questionings, longings, and understandings that spontaneously bring the archetype, in this case, wild woman, back to the surface. And so I'll stop there before I continue. Stories really evoke such emotion within us. Not only emotion, but stories allow us to see where we connect with that story or where we want to be when someone is sharing their story. And so I'll continue reading. Story Stories are embedded with instructions which guide us, which is what I just said, about the complexities of life. Stories enable us to understand the need for and the ways to raise a submerged archetype. And then she goes in on saying that the stories in the following pages, how they play along with her main theme, but I'm not going to focus on that. I'm going to just focus on the stories part of it and the importance of stories. The sun just distracted me. It's very beautiful. So, why did that intrigue me and why did I find the need to come on here and start talking about this? Well, when I was reading that, like I said, I got the just this excitement in my body that stories truly YouTube, and I will say YouTube on here because I'm on YouTube, but not only YouTube, but social media, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, where we are able to go on and share our stories, are truly this ancient form of storytelling. Because in here, she goes on and talks about like the ancient ways that people would share stories, that stories first started out with this word of mouth storytelling. That's how stories were. And people only had access to the people they met, to the people that were able to share these stories. But now with social media, with the internet, we are partaking in this ancient form of storytelling, a storytelling that I feel like was lost for a period of time in society, in culture, where just this ancient form of storytelling, stories that hold such power and stories that hold such transformative just energy and ability, stories that hold teachings about life, stories that hold inspiration, stories that hold transformation. Social media allows us to have access to so many stories, stories that we are drawn to, stories that inspire us, stories that transform us. And I think it's so beautiful that now we have such access to such stories, where before you had to meet these people physically, but now through sharing your story, you're able to transform the lives of and impact so many more people than just a few. And yes, even one person being impacted by your story is profound and so impactful and so important. But now stories are able to reach so many people. And yes, stories are not only through social media when we share our stories. Yes, there are books, which I have written 2 books. You can check them out down below. I Saw You in the Sunset and Helping People Breathe, which that's another form of storytelling. but that form of storytelling is written, is different than the speaking. Through speaking, our voice, the intonations of our voice, the way we say something is also so important. And so books are a beautiful form of storytelling as well. But this, speaking, is such an impactful storytelling, so impactful and such a beautiful way of storytelling that I feel like in the past, our ancestors, they had these stories that were passed down generation and generation and would speak and say these stories. And now I feel like that was lost in a period of time, but now we're able to reclaim that and to share our stories on a bigger level. And so with that, I want to say that if you're watching this and you feel like you don't have a story to share, know that you do. Each one of us holds a story, the story of our lives, a story that to you might seem normal, and it is normal because it is your story. But it is not. To someone, your story is an inspiration. To someone, your story could transform their life. To someone, your story can inspire a change within them. To someone, your story can give them hope. And so every person is a holder of a story, truly. Every person is a holder of a beautiful story, a story that is impactful, a story with lessons, a story that is truly just something that is pure gold. Your story is abundance. And so if you feel like you don't have anything to share, you do. Your story is worth sharing. You are the author of your life, and your story, you just being alive and the holder of your story gives you permission to share your story because it is your story. And in my book, Helping People Breathe, I have something along those lines that I was trying to like catch that in my thoughts. I think it says that mm, I have the authority to share my story. I actually don't know if that's in my book, Helping People Breathe, or if I just have that. I have like a bunch of reminders that pop up on my phone throughout the day, and I think that might be one of them. That I have the right to share my story or something like that just for being alive, for it being my story. And I want to say that to you as well, that if you feel you have nothing to share, nothing to give, or if you want to share your story but feel, is your story worthy? If you want to come and start a YouTube channel, you don't know what, start sharing your story because your story truly is so impactful. Your story holds so many lessons. Your story holds so many truths about life. And YouTube, social media, is a modern form of ancient storytelling, something that holds such art, something that holds such power. And that reminded me that there is something I wanted to say. And so now I know what came to me and what I wanted to say. There was also another line I wanted to share in the book, and it says, "Story is far older than the art and science of psychology, and will always be the elder in the equation no matter how much time passes." So stories truly are something that have been in existence since the beginning of time. Truly, we are all natural born storytellers. And our life is the greatest story we can truly tell, a life of inspiration, a life of beauty, a life even of struggle and hardship to someone shows them hope, shows them the possibility, shows them expansion. So your story is worthy of being spoken about and shared. And then the author goes on and says, "One of the oldest ways of telling, which intrigues me greatly, is the passionate trance state wherein the teller senses the audience, be it an audience of one or of many, and then enters a state in the world between worlds where a story is attracted to the trance teller and told through her. The trance teller calls on El Duende, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but the wind that blows soul into the faces of listeners. A trance teller learns to be psychically double jointed through the meditative practice of story, that is, training oneself to undo certain psychic gates and ego perchers, I think that's how you pronounce it, in order to let the voice speak, the voice that is older than the stones. When this is done, the story may take any trail, be turned upside down, be filled with porridge and dumped out for a poor person's feast, be filled with gold for the taking, or chase the listener into the next world. The teller never knows how it will all come out, and that is at least half of the moist magic of story." So this is another form of storytelling. but it's also very similar, because when you sit and maybe you don't know what to say, you're in a state where, okay, you want to say something, but you don't know, but you begin to feel, intuitively feel what someone might need to hear, and you allow that energy to come in. It's kind of like you become this open vessel for that story to come through you, and you become that open vessel to what kind of creation God wants to be birthed through you in that moment. That is also how to view stories. That stories, the speaking, what you speak, is also a creation in that moment, a co-creation with God, when you allow yourself to expand, to intuitively feel what other people need in that moment, to hear in that moment, to feel in that moment, to be transformed. And in that way, I know previously when I wanted to record or to just, create my YouTube videos and create my videos on social media, a lot of them I wanted to analytically and logically be like, okay, I think this is will do good. I think this, and this. But I then transitioned to more of this form of storytelling, where I sit in the morning and I meditate, and either something will come through me then, or I'll meditate later, or honestly, I'll just be walking and I'll get like this intuitive hit, this idea, this creative idea, and I'll get like a word, but then I'll sit with it, and throughout the day a story will be birthed. For example, with this, I was like, okay, I want to say the story about this, of how I was on the plane and I got the inspiration to talk about how YouTube is a modern form of ancient storytelling that has been lost but is so beautiful. And so that is the beautiful creative process of entering and allowing something greater to you, than you, to be channeled through you in this form of storytelling. And that's what I feel like a lot of the YouTubers or social media, um, the creators on social media that do the channeled messages, they get into this state of being a vessel for something greater, and then also intuitively feeling the people. And all of that has been anciently within us. A lot of us have just swayed away from such a form of storytelling, from allowing words to transform us in such ways. And I feel like with the rise of social media and consciously using social media, you can beautifully be transformed through stories in such a way. And I think that is so beautiful. And that's why I think YouTube is a modern form of ancient storytelling, when you do use it consciously and you're not just, scrolling and picking content, when you're intuitively picking content and allowing yourself to be activated by the stories you hear. But also, I urge you to become a creator and share your own story, because your own story is worth others hearing, others being transformed. And I feel like it is a deficit to not share your story, a story that, could be so profound to others. You don't know who will be transformed by your story. So this video is for you if you've been holding back from sharing your story, not feeling like it is worthy, thinking, how can I be someone who shares their story? You living your life gives you the power, the authority to share your story. And your stories are beautiful. Stories are what transform us. Stories are what allow us to continue living in order to create our story too. And just like be in this energy of life and, sorry, I had to check if that was recording, life and this activation. And I think it's beautiful to also share your story, to get that energy moving, that momentum, and also just like finding the people, like this community that connects with your story too. Because a lot of times we may feel like we're alone in our story, but then we share it and we see that we indeed are not alone. There's people like us who are sensitive, who are intuitive, who are wanting to create beautiful lives, who feel sadness, feel joy, feel anger, and it is all human, but it is also all divine. So, share your story. YouTube, social media is a modern form of ancient storytelling when you use it consciously, and I think that is so beautiful. It allows us to connect, it allows us to transform, it allows us to create beautiful lives by hearing other stories, by sharing our stories, by being the receivers, by being the creators, by also receiving from something greater than us, receiving from God, receiving that creation, sharing it, and living fruitful lives. So remember that today. Have a beautiful and lovely day. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Oh, and also, this was kind of a different type of video than my other videos, but to connect with the art of loving, because the art of loving is creating a life you love, and sharing your story is spreading more love in this world, is allowing others to be transformed, is allowing you to feel the worth of your story. So share your story and allow yourself and others to be transformed in the process. Have a beautiful and lovely day today.